Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from across the globe. Everybody, we hope you are safe. With respect to this pandemic or with respect to the recent cyclone, we we want you to take personal care with respect to any contingencies. So, thanks a lot for your participation for this today's session. We welcome you all for this wonderful session. Top five problems in Oracle EBS administration. This session will be presented by Mr. Akash Ramnath. He is one of our key senior person who has been handling Oracle projects and like top five key customers. I'm your today's host. My name is Narsim Rao. I'm heading database practice for Doensis. Have an industry for last 15 plus years. And again, we would like to thank you personally for your time, for your enthusiasm to learn new concepts, new areas, and for your continuous support in making these webinar series a great success. Without your participation, without your interest, these webinars would not be possible. And thanks a lot for your prompt responses with respect to the Oracle sessions or Oracle sessions and your kind responses with respect which motivates us to explore more topics to present it to you. We from Doensis are proud to present the series of webinars through Oculus. Most of you may be aware Doensis is a software technology consulting company. We have great expertise in Oracle and Oracle related products. Doensis incorporated in India and US in 2006. We have branches in Chennai and Trichy. With respect to team strength, currently we are 250 plus employees and working on the various client projects across the globe. We offer consulting, implementation, and upgrade services as well as support services for Oracle database, packaged application software development, and with more focus on Apex. We do provide cloud migration and support services to Oracle Cloud customers. You may see a few of the delighted customers in the screen. Doensis strongly believes in knowledge sharing. We always motivate our team members. We encourage our team members to share their knowledge to Oracle community. There are a lot of papers presented by our key team members. And you may be aware Sangam 20 is coming in December. One of our key senior person, Asif Hussain from DBA team, is going to present in Sangam AAOH Sangam 20. Doensis team members written a lot of books. You can see a few of them on the screen. And there are a lot of books the team are continuing to write. Coming to the speaker, Akash Ramnath, he's one of our key go-to person with respect to any Oracle projects. He has about 10 plus years of experience in IT industry. He's strong in Oracle EBS, database, SOA, WebLogic, in any related platforms. He has a very rich experience with respect to handling customer implementation, upgrade projects, and he has been supporting key customers across the globe. And he's a great team leader. He loves to learn new technologies. He has been sharing a lot of knowledge to the team and as well as to the Oracle community. Based on his rich experience in Oracle applications, this session is all about sharing his wisdom with all of us. Without further ado, I would like to hand over this session to Akash. Thanks a lot in advance. And one key request to all the participants, we request you to be on mute. If in case of any questions, please feel free to ping me. As and when applicable, we will either unmute you or you can ask the questions when we allow you to ask. Over to you, Akash.
Thank you. Thank you for stating my experience and abilities, Rao. Hello, everyone. I'm Akash Ramnath. I'm a principal consultant at Doensis. I have 10 plus years of experience in Oracle applications and database administration. I have had the opportunity to extensively work on various versions of Oracle database and applications in multiple platforms and regions. I sincerely believe that my voyage as a DBA has helped me gain some knowledge on Oracle EBS and database, mostly on the administration or administrator aspect. I would like to take this opportunity to share some of the knowledge I gained from my experience through this webinar. One such typical topic I could come up for this webinar is the top 5 problems in EBS administration. We all know that there is nothing in this world without any problem or issues, and e-business suite is not an exception. E-business suite is a complex application that comes with its own list of issues or problems, but like everything else, it has the fix, or there is always a fix or solution to these problems of EBS as well. And focusing on these top 5 EBS issues will definitely help us, will definitely help the EBS to be more secure, more to work more efficient, and will definitely reduce our unnecessary effort we show in the issues. So, like, without any further delay, let's jump into the webinar. So the key agenda of this meeting is to highlight the top 5 problems faced in EBS administration, the best options to overcome these challenges. So the first problem I would like to highlight in EBS administration is ignoring the security risks in EBS. Like all other applications, e-business suite applications has also some default security risks that comes with it. And it's an intricate application with multiple tiers and technologies, which makes properly securing an Oracle e-business suite challenging. And when maintaining an EBS application, it is very important to prioritize the highest security risk and remediate those risks first. Few of the most important security risks in EBS are using the default database password. So it is very common in any environment you go. So you could very well find the password of sys or system being used the same, the default one, that is manager. So also EBS comes up with 200 plus database user accounts by default when creating it. They all come up with a easy or a default password, and you will. This is very common in all the projects. It wouldn't have been reset. First, these passwords has to be reset. The default or weak password has to be reset even for the modules we are not using. This is main security risk that we find in EBS. Next is application users credential not hashed. By default, your application user credentials are encrypted. If you query FND users table, there are 2 columns: foundation password and user default password. So you will find a decrypted, encrypted password in these columns. Anyone who knows the app's password can easily decrypt the other application user password. So there is a default feature available in R12 called hashing your application user password. By enabling this, you will furthermore decrypt, encrypt your application user password, which is very difficult to decrypt easily. It is not easily decryptable. And it is also a good practice to reset all your application user passwords after cloning. When you are cloning into lower environments, most of the users will have the same password in all prod, dev, test, UAT. So as a good practice, it is also advisable or recommended to reset all your application user passwords in the lower environment during or after clone. Okay. The next security risk I would like to discuss is, one second, sorry. Yes. Moving on, the next security risk in EBS is not auditing your EBS table. There is a functionality called audit trial in EBS wherein you can audit who, what, or when, who's accessing the tables, what is getting modified in that table, when it is getting modified. All those information can be audited in EBS by enabling this audit trial feature. In most EBS environments, this feature is not enabled. It is a very simple setup that can be enabled from the applications by changing few profile options and parameters. Doing this will let you know, will track which row in the database was updated at what time and which user was logged in using the associated forms. All these informations can be retrieved when you enable this feature, audit trial. Next is not enabling SSL or TLS. Like this is a major security risk. Why? Because the data that is getting transferred between the client and the server is usually not encrypted if you're not enabling SSL or TLS, and if your EBS is on internet, it is a major risk. So when you enable SSL or TLS, TLS is nothing but SSL's successor, an updated version of SSL. When you do this, a cryptographic protocol will ensure the privacy between the communication. Will ensure private communication or encrypted communication between your client and the server. Moving on, the second security risk I would like to, the second major issue in EBS administration I would like to highlight here is failing to reduce the Oracle E-Business Suite data footprint. Don't get confused. Data footprint is nothing but size of your EBS system. You will find this is a common issue in EBS. Like most of the customers would notice their EBS, exponential growth in EBS. This is major. The major reason behind this is there is no purging or archiving of your EBS involved here. It is a very big challenge to reduce the data footprint if there is no purging or archiving practices involved in your EBS. So in each organization, there will be requirements to retain information for operational analysis, comparison, or reporting purposes. The frequent purging of data, which no longer needs to be retained, is essential to the management of any Oracle E-Business Suite. It should not be overlooked, and it is very important to periodically review and control the growth of data in Oracle E-Business Suite so that data footprint can be reduced or managed. If data that is no longer required is not removed, then inevitably more time and effort will be required to manage the instance and the data it contains. Without purging, footprint will continue to grow unnecessarily, postponing management problems until a later date. So there are standard archiving and purging process features or functionalities available in EBS. So these standard Oracle E-Business Suite archive and purging programs will ensure data integrity so that there is no orphan data. For example, an invoice cannot be purged unless the corresponding payments are also purged at the same time. None of them should be purged until all of them are eligible for a purge. They also apply across product dependencies and enforce business rules, validating that records can be purged before actually purging them. Few well-known purging functionalities available in EBS for maintaining the FND tables are purge obsolete generic file manager data, purge logs and close system alerts, purge concurrent request or manager data. We use this or we schedule this request in our EBS to maintain the FND concurrent tables, FND logs tables, such things. Having a control over your EBS database or EBS system size will always help us to maintain it more efficient. All your migration, upgrade, cloning activities will can all be done with more downtime, or can be done even faster if we could control our size, that is the data footprint. And if you will be surprised to know that there are more than hundreds of functionalities, built-in functionalities that is available to perform purge and archive the data that later will be used, or purge that is no longer required. Moving on, the third risk or third issue in EBS administration is depending on a particular web browser with an NP API plugin support. Dependency on browsers with NP API plugin support. NP API plugin support is nothing but Netscape plugin application programming interface. Few browsers does not support this NP API plugin supports. Some of them are phasing out of this, which will prevent the Java plugin from working. So when user wants to open a form or is using the EBS through forms, they mostly depend on Netscape Navigator, browsers like Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer. Browsers like Chrome, some versions of Firefox, Microsoft Edge, they don't follow this, or they don't go by this NP API plugin. So it is a little difficult to access your EBS applications in those browsers. So Oracle has introduced this feature called Java Web Start 2-3 years ago, so that you don't have to depend or rely on a single web browser to access your EBS. By enabling this Java Web Start, you could access your applications, you could access your forms in all the web browsers possible. This Java Web Start is a Java-based functionality, and it is a part of your Java runtime environment. It changes the way that Java runs on end users' computers, but these technical details are generally invisible to end users. Java Web Start applications are launched from browsers using Java Network Launching Protocol. So after you enable this Java Web Start feature in your EBS, when you click on form, a new tab will open. It will ask you to download one JNLP file. Usually when Java plugins are involved, when you click on a form, it will ask you to install aura.jse.exe such file. You will have to install a proper Java. Then you have to you have to have an applet to open your form. So those difficulties or those challenges are being dealt with when you enable this Java Web Start setup. This feature is available for 12.1 and 12.2, and it is enabling. By enabling this feature, you will be able to access your e-business suite in Microsoft Edge, Firefox, extended support, release of Firefox, Google Chrome, and Internet Explorer. And there are also options in this while enabling this Java Web Start. You could actually use both the technologies to access your forms. You can either choose Java Web Start or go with the usual way of accessing it through applets. You have those options available even after you enable this feature. So setting up it is not a very big deal. It's just you have to apply a few patches to your 10.1.2 technology stack, and have to apply a few additional patches to your few of the products. So by main context here is, by enabling this, you will not be depending on a single web browser to access your EBS. You can access all your EBS in all the browsers available. Moving
on. Akash, before we go,
yes,
can you
sir.
check any questions from the participants? If you have any questions, feel free to ping, or you may unmute yourself and then ask.
Any questions so far?
Hi Akash, this is Ramesh. I had a doubt. In some browsers, if you want to access an EBS front-end page URL, we need to download some Java plugins, right? In Mozilla Firefox or Internet Explorer. For Netscape Navigator, we don't require to install Java plugins. Directly, it will be pre-installed or otherwise.
Even for basically your machine should have a Java installed. So Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer. When you talk about Netscape Navigator, by default comes with a, NP API plugin that is compatible with your Oracle applications.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so someone has pinged me.
Yes, sir.
So will there be any performance issue if we enable auditing? So you mentioned
Auditing.
about yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
that's actually uh, actually an assumption. Like if you enable audit, there will be some performance issues. There will be no performance issues when you enable this.
Is there any like let's say if we enable auditing? See, this is a general perception from many multiple customers, right? In
Yes, sir.
the older version of EBS, auditing enabled, and then it caused performance issues. So they consider the same thing for the future release as well.
Okay.
Now, do you recommend any best practices saying like if you enable auditing, do we need to follow any other best practices?
Best practices is like instead of enabling this audit for all the tables, you can
Hmm.
restrict it to few tables, few business critical tables, few business critical functionalities, so that
Hmm.
auditing is enabled only for that.
That's wonderful. Okay. And one more point about this SSL. There's one question. I think I would like to ask that. SSL, you said end-to-end encryption and like with encryption, without encryption. So there is one more option called at the load balancer level encryption, right?
Yes,
Without
yes.
following it. So do you recommend or do you prefer that option?
This we have noticed this enabling this SSL at the load balancer side in OCI. Generally in OCI, people doesn't go with SSL to the application. That is again one more installation that is required for EBS. We can redirect all the SSL setups to the load balancer so that your applications is untouched. All your SSL decryption, encryption activity will go to the load balancer, and there is no burden to your application. This feature is available in OCI. On premise, there are load balancers. I'm not sure about configuring SSL to your load balancer in on premise.
Okay, nice. When we talk about this purging, you mentioned about the archiving purging, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
that we are archiving for the standard modules.
Mhm.
And also you highlighted a very good point about this purging of concurrent requests and those areas, right?
Yes.
Uh, and there are few tables which generally will not be purged, right? So Oracle term it as a runtime tables, right? Temporary tables or something like that, or kind of a backup tables, I would say. Uh, do you recommend to take such precautions for this, or will there be any standard practice for that?
If it is okay, all the technical and functional informations are available in this doc ID.
Okay.
Okay, as a DBA perspective, we usually purge this FND concurrent request table, FND concurrent programs information, or all your requested informations on all the output files, log files. Those purging is what I've discussed here. When
Right.
you when there is a table that shouldn't be purged, I don't think there will be any functionalities to do it.
Right.
This
Okay.
media purging, for example, one such example I could bring here is like there is one important table in EBS called FND Logs, which has all
Right.
the business attachments associated to it. So this I think this particular concurrent request will take care of that purge obsolete generic file manager data.
Okay.
It will purge all the attachments in file data column. module wise, but you have to involve your technical and functional team to do this, to set up an expiry date to all the attachments they attach.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
do so.
Wonderful. Is there any other questions from the participants? Okay, I think Akash, continue. If in case of anything, I'll stop.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Moving on, the fourth major issue I would like to highlight is failing to install updates and patches. This is one of the major issues because Oracle releases, a series of patches like release update patches, Oracle technology stack patches, security patches, and software update patches every now and then. There is this assumption under clients that my system is already working fine. Why should I, explicitly go and choose to apply these patches? Why do we require a separate downtime for this? So the major assumption here is like installing these updates can result in downtime for the system, which makes many organizations reluctant to perform them. However, updating EBS on a regular basis is very important. The longer you wait to do so, the more work you will have to do to resolve the issues, and more effort you will have to put in when you eventually upgrade. I do accept that applying a patch can, will require a downtime which is not actually recommend, which is not easily convincible to the customers. But a patch can update your existing system in various ways, from adding a new feature or product to improving system performance. Instead of avoiding to apply patches regularly, we must consider, few best practices through which we can reduce the downtime to at least 40 to 50 percentage. We can reduce the downtime and then consider to apply the patches. Few best practices to reduce downtime are merging multiple patches using AD merge patch. You have two patches which is going to update the same file. You can merge those two patches. One fine example I could tell about merging patches: when you have multiple languages in your EBS and you want to apply language patches, you could merge all those language patches into one and then apply it. Next thing is you could defer or disable the system-wide database tasks like compiling apps, maintaining your MRP schema. You have some 5 patches to be applied. All 4 will be doing the same thing. What you can do is you can disable this database task for the first 4 patches and then enable it for the last patch you're going to apply. Next thing you could do is you could involve or execute your AD patch in a non-interactive mode. You could create a default something called default file with the information. When you run AD patch, it will ask you to enter the patch log file, patch locations, and system password, number of workers, and driver file. What else? Apps password. So all the basic information that is asked every time we run AD patches can be put into a single file called default file, and this default file could be passed to your AD patch while running. So AD patch default file, you could give this as an input and give your driver file as an input, so that it will reduce the time we enter all those details. And we can implement a shared application tire file system. If your application tire has more than 1 or 2 nodes, in each node we have to apply all the patches. So if we have a shared Apple top, we just have to apply in one node, which will reduce the downtime, and there is a new feature called ADOP in 12.2 versions of EBS, which has reduced the downtime to about 15 to 30 minutes. You could apply all the technology stack patches, AD patches to your patch file system, wherein your run file system is undisturbed. So when you get a downtime, a minimal downtime of 15-30 minutes, you could perform the cutover and make your systems online back. So main point here we would like to convey is not to we should not be avoiding to apply the patches and updates whenever. So I think every 3 months, every 2 months, there are patches released by Oracle, which we should apply into our EBS for more, for it to perform way more better than the previous one. Moving on, the final problem in EBS administration I would like to discuss is I would like to pitch in more small DBA points here, DBA, aspects of database administration. These issues is a common issue to all DBAs. So the final problem in EBS administration is common misstep in maintaining EBS system. When maintaining EBS, these are the common points we miss, or when we take care of this, maintaining our EBS system is way more easier. So first thing would like to point out is multiple application tier using local and shared mount points. Like if your application tier, if your EBS has multiple application tier, web, form, concurrent, so maintaining each one of them with its own local file system is little hectic for any patching activity, or if you take any cloning, or you want to take a backup of your EBS, you have to do it in all in all the nodes, in all the application tiers. So when you enable or when you set up a shared application top, your job is almost reduced to 1/3 or 1/4. You just have to apply patch once. You just have to, during any cloning, upgrading, migration activities, you just have to do it on that node. You don't have to worry about the other individual nodes, because your application, your application tier is shared among every nodes. And second common issue, or second common misstep we do is the DBAs, or we mostly edit the files, EBS files manually, which is not usually recommended. Any such modifications made manually will be overwritten while executing autoconfig in most circumstances. There are ways to do it. For example, each configuration file has a template file associated to it. So when you make the changes directly in the configuration file, next time you run autoconfig, this configuration file gets overwritten with or without your knowledge. But when you want to make these changes permanent, then you have to get into OAM and edit them through OAM, or you have to make the changes in the template. So whatever the changes you want to make to the configuration file, it will have its own associated template to it. So you can make the changes to this template file. So whenever autoconfig runs, it will refer the template file and then will upgrade your configuration file. So manually editing the files is not recommended. Use OAM or edit the template files. You could find what configuration files are associated with what templates in this node IDs. Any doubts so far?
Team, if there is any questions, feel free.
Please go ahead. I have one small doubt in that ADOP patching cycle. See, during the cutover phase, normally we will face a downtime like 1 hour they will be given in my environment, but sometimes it may extend up to 1.5 hours or something like that. So as a worker, what we usually do is we will bring down the concurrent manager alone beforehand when you are about to initiate the cutover phase. Even still, it takes around 1 hour for the cutover phase alone to complete. So is there any way to quicker the cutover phase alone even after bringing down the concurrent managers? Is there any way so?
Your point is like your cutover is taking almost 1 hour or
yes,
more than 1 hour.
Yes.
Yeah. This depends, like how many patches you are applying, and depends on your environment, how the performance, or how it is configured, like what is the RAM of your server and other things. So usually when a cutover is happening, your run file system will turn into patch, and your patch file system will turn into your run file system. So
Yes.
if this transfer is taking more than 1 hour, it should not. Then we have to concentrate on tuning your configurations like RAM, CPU, such things, and how many depends. It's environment oriented, like how many concurrent managers you have and how many nodes you have. You have more than 3-4 nodes, then it is an expected thing to happen. You have one node, you have just 1 or 2 nodes, then 1 hour or 1.5 hour is a long time. It's a very generic doubt you asked. It totally depends on your environment to troubleshoot this.
Understood. 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 Yeah. Thank you.
Akash,
Yes, sir.
this is Ganesh. Can we run autoconfig when the EBS is running?
It is recommended to run autoconfig when your applications are offline.
Offline. If you run when it is EBS is running,
You can
then
run, it will run, but
okay.
if some files has already been used, there is a chance that it might not get updated or updated.
Uh, where any customized objects will be going to change when we run autoconfig when the EBS is running.
Uh, Autoconfig will not touch any objects. It will only work with configuration files.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think let's proceed further.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions from anybody? I think let's proceed further. Let's proceed further.
Yeah. Moving on to the last common mistake that's done or that's noticed in EBS administration is applying AD patches using hot patch. It's a it's a common mistake we all make, or we all would have noticed at least some point. Like any patch you get or any patch users ask you to apply in your EBS, we usually go with AD patch options equal to hot patch. This should only be used if it is explicitly mentioned in the patch README, and it is not intended to be an easy way of applying patches to your system without shutting down the application tire. Most patches should only be applied during scheduled downtimes when all users are logged off the system and application services have been shut down and maintenance mode enabled. So doing this is not highly recommended. You get proper downtime, like I advised in the previous point. With find out to find out or work on ways to bring down your downtime rather than skipping or using hot patch. So this is in brief about my topic, top 5 problems in EBS administration. Focusing on these top 5 problems will definitely help us to to make the EBS more secure and more efficient, and it will reduce our day-to-day effort, and we can concentrate more on other aspects and activities if you could streamline these in a possible way. Any questions so far, team? So like we saw about the security issues, we saw about the data footprint, how managing the data footprint will help us, and we discussed about dependencies, browser dependencies, how enabling JWS to be will help us to access EBS on multiple web browsers, and what will happen if you skip your periodic patches released by Oracle, and three of the most common mistakes that is made while maintaining an EBS system. So I hope.
There is one question from Rahul Subramanian.
Yes, sir.
He's asking is, can we skip one of the patch release and go on to the further release? So, basically what he asked is, like, let's say I applied the Jan CPU,
Okay.
and then there is a March Oracle released, and during June I'll skip the March and then apply only the June. Is it good practice? Is it okay to do?
See, when you want to start applying the CPU patches, you have to start with something. So, for example, your August 2020 patches might have your June 2020 patches as your prerequisite. If you can directly apply them, you can go ahead and apply them. But if you have to apply that first, then you have to apply that first and come to here. All the read me like directly applying is completely the patch dependent. If it is available, if it can be applied, it can be applied. If it cannot be applied, then you have to work on the dependencies first and then come to the latest CPU or PSU patches.
Thank you.
So basically what you say is like if the patch says that the last CPU is bundled, then we can apply.
Bundle, yeah, bundle. Some of them might be superseded. So it really depends on the patch. If mostly it is bundled, most way it is already bundled, we can go ahead and apply them. Some of them might not be bundled. Some of them might ask for a different dependency patch. So in that scenario, we might have to apply those.
Nice. There is another anonymous question.
Yes, sir.
How easy is it to roll back an applied patch? Let's take. I think we have to consider both database and as well as applications patch here.
Okay. Database O patches, we have database or application O patches. We can roll them back. AD patches, we cannot. We might have to reclone it or restore.
Okay, hope it answers the question. So is there any other questions from anyone? Okay, so there is one question from Arun Kumar. It says, any suggestions for FND log migration to improve performance?
Okay. Like I have told before, like FND Lobs is a EBS business table that has all your attachments. It is, if you notice, it will be the largest table in your system. It might be the largest table in your EBS. So you want to migrate it or you want to maintain it. First thing is you have to involve. You have to purge this FND logs table on a periodic manner. Like if all your attachments has a proper expiration date set to it, then your concurrent request will take it on its own. But if there is no expiration date set to this tables, then easier way or recommended way is to raise an SR with the Oracle support, work with the concerned team, because it has multiple attachment from multiple modules in that. And one more thing is we can perform an export and import of this FND logs table. Challenge here is FND logs table has a blob column for file data is actually a blob column, so we cannot bring in the parallel parameter while exporting or importing. That is one challenge. You can use the standard method, which will be it depends on the size of your FND logs table. The time for export and import is completely dependent on the size of FND logs table. But there is one other way to perform the export import more faster. Like there is one parameter called query, wherein you could split this table into multiple dumps or multiple chunks using the row IDs. So using that, you can export import this FND logs table.
Okay, I hope that answers the question to Harun. Okay, so another question from one of the participants is, what is the most exciting DBA task you did in recent days?
Exciting DBA task. Okay. Exciting DBA task is like I recently we migrated our on-premise. One of our clients migrated from on-premise to OCI. Which was very challenging in the beginning, because our database size was around 4.5 TB. Like I mentioned, we had this FND logs table which was consuming around 1 TB. So only at the point of migration, we went into purge this FND logs table. We reduced its size to 400 GB from 1 TB, which reduced the first iteration. If you look at the first iteration, it took about 42 hours first iteration. And after doing this, before second iteration, we performed we purged this FND logs table, and we performed an export and import, and we reduced the database size to around 3.8 TB, and we removed all unnecessary tables, and we even involved the technical and respective technical functional team. We involved them. We asked them to remove all unnecessary data, and we brought in about we closed in about 3.2, something like that, and we reduced the downtime to 33 or 32 hours.
Nice. Okay, that's interesting. Is it a common practice when we do for migration, OCI migration? Do we really need to consider cleaning of data, or is it applicable all the time?
Not applicable all the time. Like depends on the customer. Like our customer was unfortunately not are purging their data. They have control over the database. Multiple users had access to the databases. They were taking backup of tables whenever required, completely requirement. So and the requirement was, the downtime requirement was very less. They were not okay with more than 36 hours. They had so we looked into options to reduce the downtime. So what can be done to reduce the downtime? So what other ways we could help them? So we mainly concentrated on the size of their EBS.
Okay. 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 See, when do you recommend any best practices, like with respect to the post cloning? See, generally what DBA do is like copy paste.
When cloning is concerned, like the first thing, not to skip any of the pre-clone activities. Like most of the environment, you won't find the DBAs running AD pre-clone in any of the nodes. They will just the first step or first action plan of clone is to bring down your target, wipe it down, and then incorporate RMAN or any other database copy, and then they copy the application files and do it. So I would recommend to perform the AD pre-clone, then go with wiping the target. About post clones, it is for each environment it differs. Some of them will, some of the customers will require all the DB links, all the DBA directories, to be present on. Some of them will ask us to reset the user passwords, relink few of the, your binary files will have your source locations. Those things, workflow will be down in your lower environment. So first we need to understand what needs to be done environment wise, and then do it. Most of the post clone activities can be automated through shell script or SQL scripts. And I would also recommend to validate, write a script to validate your clone. Like after you perform the clone, you run a script and find out what it is returning. Like if there is any AACP instance involved, check if that database link is working, or check the DBA directories, check if your password resets are happened, check. This is a common issue to we would mostly skip or forget to change the Apple P temp directories during clone. So all this validation can be done through a shell script post clone.
Nice. So there is one question. If worked on EBS, okay. So what he's asking is like, is there any performance issue that you have encountered with EBS on OCI compared to on-premise?
Okay. This is again a very generic question. When it comes to performance, it has to be specific to troubleshoot any performance issues.
No, he is asking. Is asking your experience. Did you face any performance?
Okay. Compared to the on-premise, OCI is better. Whatever that was running, for example, any concurrent request that was running 2 hours, 3 hours here is getting completed in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The shape of my OCI system is more compared to the on-premise.
Okay, so it's higher capacity.
It's higher, yes.
Okay. Okay, so one more question. So for the on-premise DBA, any DBA who is managing on-premise, okay, so is there any new skills that we need to learn to manage the instances in OCI?
On-premise to OCI. That depends actually. See, when your customers are choosing infrastructure as a service, then as a DBA, you don't notice any difference. You will be doing the same thing in the OCI, but it is always good to understand what is happening, because a few examples I could give is like the backup strategies would be different in on-premise and OCI. There are new techniques available in OCI for faster backup and faster recovery. Learning those can be useful, and you should learn how to interact with your console through a tool called OCI CLI. That is very useful. And what else? But the cloning is can be done in a different way in OCI. You could involve something called block volume backups, block volume clones in OCI, which is in on-premise. We usually go with standard RMAN backups or active duplicate, or we copy. We clone using file system. So cloning, all your activities like cloning, backup, is different, is a little different in OCI.
Okay. So technically what you're saying is like, if it is an IaaS, primarily it will be the same, but there are new areas that they have to get.
New areas like backup and clone can be interesting in OCI. Learning them is useful. You can prepare yourself.
Nice. Is there any other questions from anyone? Okay. As of now, no questions. So I have few questions. One thing is like this is in relationship with the instances in OCI, right? So for the on-premise, we used to have this punch out sites configured, and as well as we have this XML gateway configured with the third-party systems, right? For the vendor systems. What kind of security we should take with respect to running the instances in OCI? Like, does it like? Do you want me to repeat?
Okay. You were asking me if there are any security policies that could be incorporated for XML gateway.
Correct. Right. So we have the punch out sites, right? So
Okay.
for EBS, will the procurement team will connect to the punch out sites to order the goods. So there is a setup that we as a DB have to change in the EBS level. So do you recommend any security precautions to be taken in the for the EBS instance on OCI?
In OCI perspective, I'm not sure, but we can give a or set up a DMZ for this, I guess.
Okay, so basically, like the network layer, it has to be secured. That
secured, yeah, yes. Only the persons who are going to perform this will have to access this.
Okay.
Through,
so basically, we have to restrict. We have to restrict the access. That's what
restrict the others. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I think if there is no other questions. Participants, any questions? You can ping me or you can unmute yourself and then you ask. Okay, I think we have no other questions. So thanks a lot to everyone for your kind participation and thanks a lot for your time. It's a very precious, we understand. And we from Doyences want you to stay safe and thanks a lot everyone for the across the globe. Thanks for the participation and happy Thanksgiving to everyone and happy holidays. Enjoy your holiday and stay safe. Thanks a lot Akash for your precious time and as well as sharing the knowledge with all of us, and it's really interesting session.
Thank you. Thank you people.